Edmonton Web Design, the creation of an enticing website. Edmonton web design firm Rolling Wave starts with the basics. The goal behind any type of web design is to create an attractive site that's easy for users to navigate. This may seem simple enough, but many popular websites fail to utilize design techniques to their advantage. In fact, the proper presentation of content on the web is a skill, similar to laying out a magazine or newspaper. If it isn't pleasing to the eye, no one's going to be drawn into the content. Ultimately, this is what differentiates web design from web development or programming. Programming emphasizes functionality. Design is all about drawing people in and giving them a reason to stay. With the World Wide Web being so large and growing every day, an enticing and useful design can make all the difference to the success of a site. The process of designing and building a web page can be quite simple. Most sites are built using hypertext markup language, HTML, or some variation thereof. Almost anyone can build a simple website using HTML, which is essentially a series of codes used in a very specific order. However, HTML sites often lack adaptability and imagination. That is why most designers will at least integrate CSS, or cascading style sheets, into their code, in order to make the design more uniform and adaptable. Though these building blocks are the simplest ways to build a website, even they can take months to learn. The more exciting a web page is, the more complicated its construction. When designing a web page, one of the most important factors to consider is accessibility. At the very least, the design should have a meaningful structure that can be navigated by the average user. The key word is intuitive, meaning things are organized in a way that people will naturally expect. If a first-time user comes to your site and takes longer than 5 seconds to understand its purpose, the site probably isn't very intuitive. However, intuition will vary depending on the audience. Defining the audience of a web page is the first step in deciding how to display the content. One of the biggest mistakes made in building a web page is designing the site based on how you would like it, rather than how the intended user would want to see it. This is a sure way to drive users to a competitor. Consider this. What purpose does your website serve, if not to solve some kind of problem for the user? If your design confuses your audience, then it fails to meet its only purpose. The content should also be carefully evaluated. The purpose of any website should be clearly defined to the user, or it already lacks accessibility. Content should always be centered on the intended user, as people are only visiting the site to meet their own needs. The content should cater to that notion. Along these lines, design should never get in the way of the content. Even if an element is attractive, if it obstructs access to content, it won't hold the user's attention. Design principles unfortunately fall by the wayside in the creation of many web pages, but they definitely play an important role in the most memorable. These can be simple tricks, aimed simply at making the site more attractive, or they may be more complex design elements intending to communicate something to the user through the visual medium. Certain elements of design will actually play an important role on how well your content is understood. Something as simple as type contrast can make or break a website. For example, using a light typeface on a light background can make text difficult to read, yet this mistake is committed time and time again. Contrast can also be distracting if the page uses colors that clash. A design that isn't pleasant to look at will draw attention away from the content. In many ways, these essential design principles seem obvious, yet they're disregarded all over the internet. In some cases, users will continue into a site with an irritating or frustrating design simply because they need whatever is there. But if they know they can get the same thing somewhere else, they will move on. Edmonton web design firm Rolling Wave understands and utilizes design principles to create websites that are both functional and accessible. At the heart of all our work is the idea that all web pages are designed to serve the user's need. We carry that idea forward to create pages that are both attractive and accessible to any audience. To learn more, visit the Rolling Wave website at www.rollingwave.com.